Welcome to the ATA podcast, where we talk to former elite athletes sharing their insights and wisdom derived from successfully transitioning into life beyond the game. A very warm welcome to the Athlete Transition Accelerator. I'm delighted to be joined today by Tonia Couch, a former elite level diver, a lady who competed at the very highest level for 18 years. Along that journey, we've got 3 Olympics, we've got Beijing, we've got London, and we've got Rio. World Championships, there's a whole raft of achievements in there, including a silver medal at the Commonwealth Games with her synchronized partner. Now, first of all, a very warm welcome, Tonia. Very kind of you to spend your time here. And if I can just ask, before we go into sort of the length of your career, credit to you, there's a huge diversity of competitions and things you've achieved. With every guest, we ask people to pull out 1 or 2 memories, if that's possible, over such a long period of time. But what gives you the biggest sense of pride now that you can look back over that time period?
Do you know what? We get asked this question so many times, and honestly, it's so hard to pick one because you probably got about 15.
Yeah, yeah.
But I will say, for me, making the Olympic Games in 2008, Beijing, I never went to go to and try and compete in such an early stage of my career. The fact I made that was pretty special. But I think the thing that tops it at a World Series event, I actually split the 2 Chinese up. I was this close to winning the whole competition,
Right.
but second, splitting the 2 Chinese. So one came first and one came third. And to beat a Chinese, well,
Good
it
for
don't
you.
happen very often. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially for women's diving. In the men have caught these guys up, but for the women, they're just so far ahead of us. The fact that I was stood there in between 2, oh, it was amazing.
Special moment.
My mum actually rang me up. It made me laugh. And she was like, "You've come second." And I was like, "No, mum, no, I've come third." Because I didn't look at the board because everybody was congratulating me. So I assumed I've won a medal.
Right.
I've won a medal. This is insane. But my mum was like, "You've come second." I was like, "No." And and honestly, my poor mum must have been like, "What are you on about?" She was like, "You've just come second." And I was like, "No,
Wow.
no, 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 I haven't. I haven't. I came third. Don't be so daft." Then I saw my name and I was like, ah.
Yeah. See,
But,
I love it. I love it when you roll these clock, because every guest is from different sectors, different disciplines, and there's that natural emotion, and it shines through in you when you're talking about that. I mean, and you're very humble. It's hard to pull them out, but when you've had a career of that length, you've got to pull some of those memories out. And that just on the length of the career, we've spoken to a lot of athletes. Some athletes have had to finish early. Some people, injury brings it to an end. But you are right up in the upper echelons. We've had Joe Jacobson, who's did 19 years in professional football. We had Mike Brown just a week or so back, who played, for multiple times for England, and I think he was knocking on the door of 19, 20 seasons. He'll shoot me for getting that wrong. But 18 years at the top flight. For anybody listening and who's still competing and inspires to that level of longevity, what would you put that down to? Is there anything, if you could bottle it and pass that on to people, staying at that level for so long? What are your thoughts on that?
I think I just enjoyed the sport. I enjoyed the guys that I was surrounded by, and I had no pressure. Even though we had a lot of pressure being up the top, my mum and dad didn't pressure me into anything. My coach, Andy, was very relaxed. Like a lot of people work in different ways. For me, when people used to sit down and say, right, I want a meeting at the end of each week with your coach to discuss goals. Nah, not for me. I
Right.
don't want it. Because as soon as you start doing that, it all just goes downhill. I used to go into training, work my hardest, have a good time, go home, walk the dog, live my normal life outside of diving. And I think that just really worked for me. I was
Right.
just,
Interesting.
my mum and dad used to laugh because when I was younger, I used to dance or chat to everyone waiting for my dives. And my mum and dad used to be like, is she concentrating? Calm down. But that worked for me because I was happy.
Yep. Yep.
Whereas I was petrified and nervous. I think that's just when it didn't work. So yeah, I think just don't put pressure on yourself and enjoy what you're doing.
No, it's a great perspective. So what brought the end to that chapter then? What made you think what you were enjoying it, as you've articulated perfectly? You didn't put pressure on yourself. You were passionate about what you did, and you were in the right environment with the right coaches around you who let you be you. What made you start to think, okay, now's the time to hang up the proverbial costume. I'm ready for the next chapter.
Well, I did three Olympic Games, which was more than I ever would have ever dreamed about doing.
Fabulous.
I did three Commonwealth Games. I did pretty much every competition there was in the diving industry. So I was like, I've done it. The only thing that I did miss out on was an Olympic medal. But God, I can't complain. Like I made every like final world event competition. I think I did another year after the last Olympic Games. My friends were retiring. I was kind of rocking up to do the sport and nobody was there. It kind of lost, I kind of lost the fun and the love for it. I had a few days where I was really quiet and my coach would be like, is this what you want to do? And I was like, I don't know if I do want to do it anymore.
Right.
And when I retired, he also retired, but not in the coaching world. He retired from the UK and
Right.
moved to Australia to coach. So we left together and it was just really lovely. And I just thought the time was right, like I think I was 27 or 28, 28. And I thought at some point I want to settle down, have a baby. So yeah, I think this is the time to move on. And
It
I'm
just felt right.
yeah, because I think sometimes when you carry on in the sport and you get older and you don't enjoy it, the younger ones start beating you because you're not at the top of your game anymore because you've lost the passion, you've lost the love, you've lost just it all. And I thought, I'm leaving on a high.
Yeah.
I Even was people were starting to beat me. I'm leaving now, so I'm really glad that I did that, and I don't look back and regret any of that.
No, and I'm sure you've heard it many times before, but it's something to really cherish. Obviously, in the conversations we're having on a daily basis, so many athletes don't get that opportunity to finish on their terms. Invariably, it's injury that stops them. So to be able to say it feels right, now's the time, I think is a blessing to cherish. So tell us a little bit about what you do now. What the sort of give us a bit of a sort of 30,000 foot view of what sort of things you've done since that moment when you retired. Because I know you've got a few different irons in the fire, a few different things that you're involved in. So just for the benefit of the listeners, give us a bit of a flavour as to how that chapter post swimming has evolved.
So I went straight on to doing a bit of diving coaching, which I loved. I didn't want to go and coach the like high level guys because with that comes traveling, which
Hmm.
I've done all that. So I didn't want the pressure on me. And I thought, I love like the kids and how fun they are. I want to coach the kids. And I loved it. I loved it so much. So I did a bit of coaching. And I also thought I might go into beauty where
Right?
I had, as a kid, always loved that industry. So for actually something completely different away from sport, let's go to something that I've always loved. So now I've got my own little beauty business,
Great.
um, and I have been doing a couple of appearances as a pundit on like the TV for BBC for uh Commonwealth Games, Olympics, Europeans. So yeah, no, I've done a few different random things, and I did a question of sport, and yes, it's been busy but great fun, and it's been nice to have a glass of wine on a Wednesday if you want.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, some of your weekends are back, as you say. Travel is such a restriction, but the beauty business is an interesting one because so many of the people we talk to are entrepreneurial. They've got a desire to explore their own passion, things they love. Like you said, you loved that industry from a young age, but for a variety of reasons, they put mental blocks in the way. And well, I can't do that. And often that's just a self-created narrative. So um, then you've got the punditry, which would scare a lot of people to death to be in front of the microphone and on live television and doing all the great things you've done there. So I suppose the best way to frame this is just touching on transferable skills. Is there anything that you would say, actually, some of the things I took from diving have really helped me in this next chapter? Because I think that's powerful for existing elite athletes to hear that there are things happening for you in your sport right now which will help you down the track. So, you've made that bold decision. You've stepped in front of the cameras. You've done the punditry. You've done the entrepreneurial stuff. You're also doing the coaching. What skills would you say you're taking out of diving and applying into those three different areas?
I don't know really, and I've really thought about that. But I guess if I can do a handstand on the 110 meter with hundreds of people watching, I can do anything. I'm not really sure. I think just be brave, and if we're brave to do any sport and to put ourselves out there because some days are fantastic and some days are really not. There's ups and downs with anything you do, sport, jobs, family life, relationships, all sorts. So as long as you put yourself out there and try, all you can do is try your best. If
Absolutely.
you know, I'm not a millionaire. Christ, I'm far from that. I'm not, but I'm trying my best. There's people out there that's doing better than me, but don't matter. I'm trying my best, and that's all we can ask for in this world. So yeah, like just try again. And if you don't succeed, we don't give up straight away. We keep going.
Well, that mindset, absolutely. I think you have to have in elite sport. And you touch on confidence there. You've got to have a lot of mental strength. You've got to have a confidence to do what you did off a board. I mean, out of curiosity, what drew you to that in the first place? Because as our research right that at a younger age you were drawn to gymnastics and then you made that step across into diving. Just out of curiosity, what about diving said, hey, come over here and try this? How did you get into it in the first place?
So I dislocated, broke, and fractured my elbow doing giants on the bar in gymnastics. It's when
Right.
you're going around the bar, but we
Yeah.
learned to go the other way. So your hand grip was in a funny position. So
Right.
it's very scary when you first learn it. And I actually pinged off and injured myself. So the doctor said after my surgery, you'll never be able to put weight on your arm ever again. And I was the type of girl that was handstanding, cartwheeling, doing all sorts like in the front room.
Yeah.
So I worked really hard because I was like, I can't not put my hands down on the floor. I've got to do this. And my granddad did something similar and could only bend his arm to like halfway.
Right.
I was like, no, I need to work hard for this because I'm just very active. So I worked really hard and then I was able to put weight on, but it kind of gave me a little bit of like, I was scared to go back and do any of the gymnastics. So I held back a lot. And someone actually said to my mum, why don't you try diving? It's very similar, all your somersaults, your strength. So I went in one time, and I loved it. The whole atmosphere as well was a lot more calmer than gymnastics. Like
Right.
gymnastics is very, straight to the point. Whereas diving, we were going camping with our family and friends. It was just really good fun. Did my first competition. I think I could be wrong here, but it's roughly about 6 weeks into when I first started.
I,
Was
I
it?
I did read this, and it went well, didn't it? It went well for your first ever tournament. It can't go any better.
No, it was really funny because you don't really do this in competitions much well, especially in the like when you're older. But for the little ones, you would read like it from back to front, and my name just wasn't being called. And like I was looking at my mum and dad, and they were like, I don't know. And then I got to the medals, and my name still wasn't called. And then yeah, first place on the couch, and I was like,
There you go. Natural talent. See, nature, nurture, but there must have been something there that you were destined, as difficult as that injury was, to just nudge you that way and take you into diving because that 18-year career as a consequence wouldn't have happened without it, would it?
exactly. Everything happens for a reason. And at the time, dislocating my elbow on my best friend's birthday wasn't great, but clearly worked out for the best.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Now, one of the things you didn't mention when you were saying about what you're doing now, obviously you're involved with the Switch the Play initiative. So there's obviously a passion. We're talking here all about transition and stepping from that elite sport into the next chapter. So stating the obvious, the fact that you're involved with an organization like that suggests that this element is something that you're very passionate about in helping other people who are going to walk the path behind you.
Of course, because I didn't really have that when I left. You're kind of just thrown in the deep end and it is scary. So, if we can help anyone else, even if it's one person, then we're winning, aren't we? Because when you're in a sport for so many years, you're so focused, you forget that there's like a real world out there. And then all of a sudden it's like, now what do we do?
Yeah.
I wish I pushed maybe my school a bit more, but I was always away. So that never really happened for me. So yeah, it's, if we can help someone, like I said, at least one person, then we're doing our jobs, aren't we?
Absolutely. And so when you had that privilege of being able to say, now's the time, I'm retiring, you said it was a little bit difficult. You're in at the proverbial deep end. Had you done any preparation? Was there anything that you'd sort of got in place? You mentioned about the coaching. Just take us back to that actual moment of transition. What was the first thing that you sort of stepped towards?
Yeah, when you I'm not sure about it with all sports, but I know for diving, we've got like a small bit of funding. So whilst you're in that sport, especially the youngsters, they should use as much of their funding to do different courses, even
Right.
if they use it. Even if they don't use it, because I wish I did more of that. I should have done loads, but I didn't until the very end. So they paid for like your level one and level two coaching course. So then when I did finish, I was straight into coaching.
Right.
Um, so in a way, even though I retired, it never really felt that I left.
Yeah.
I was still
Yeah.
every day. So that was really, really nice. And then a few years later, I decided to take up the beauty industry. It's only like a little something, you know. Um, but then I paid for that course because I did it too late. So that's why it's really interesting for these kids now to learn more about how much funding we have each year. Because I wish
Yes.
I all of that when I was diving.
And that, you
Because
know, that's a great piece of wisdom because the one of the things we always like to ask people is we're all geniuses with the benefit of hindsight. You know, you can look back at your life and go, oh, should have done this, should have done that. But part of the benefit of this podcast is we're giving people who are still in that elite sport world the benefit of hindsight by listening to other people and learning from their
yeah,
positioning. So we always ask people to think about a do and a don't. And you might have just answered it there in terms of what's something you would say to people, do this, it's going to make your transition easier. And equally, what's a don't do that if you want to make your transition earlier. So I don't want to put words in your mouth. You might have another answer, but that element of do embrace those funding opportunities, do invest in your education sounds like that might be the perfect do in answer to that question.
and I still see people like in the diving industry now not taking that money and using it. And I get it because we're busy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the GB teams just spent 2 weeks in Turkey for a training camp. They'll come home for like a month, if that, and then they're off to somewhere else. It is chaos, so I completely understand why they don't. But I just wish I could say, trust me, when you leave, we got to pay for it all ourselves.
Yeah.
We don't get the funding. I'm not on the same money as I was before, you know, use it.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
anyone's
Great advice.
good funding,
It's great advice because, and again, it's something that people who have listened to a lot of the episodes, they'll get tired of me saying, but for the benefit of someone who might be listening to this for the first time, there's so much science out there now, and we hear it from lots of athletes still participating and that are retired, that when you can just detach from your discipline, take yourself away from your training temporarily, it energizes you. It's good for you mentally, and it actually helps to enhance your performance when you come back. So it's not an either or. If you want to look at this just through a performance lens and not about preparing for your next chapter, well, just take yourself away from your sport. You'll be better to have that little break. You'll enhance your performance. So that's been a bit of a breakthrough with some people who are like, I'm all about my performance. I don't care about the next chapter. Okay, well, if you're all about performance, do something slightly different occasionally because it'll help your performance.
agree 100%.
So, is there anything on the don't side? Again, with the benefit of hindsight, was there anything that you'd throw out to people and say, do you know, looking back, I'd say don't do this if you want to have a better chapter beyond your sporting chapter?
Don't know about that one. Um, no, I don't think.
Well, if there's nothing coming to mind there, let me just put this another way then. In terms of the sort of switch the play and talking to people as you do, are there any themes that come out of that space? You know, things that you see exist in athletes or whether it's diving or outside of diving, regular sort of fears or points, barriers in terms of transition that you're seeing equally solutions to? You know, again, it's just throwing a spotlight onto that point of transition. If there's anything that you see, quite a few people are mentioning this, I would say, don't do this. I've seen this not particularly work for a lot of people.
I think we've all done the same pretty much as we stick to what we know. So they stay in that sport. But then, some people have got a great voice and they do a lot of like talks to help others, but they're too afraid. I'm too afraid to do that. So I completely get it. That gives me anxiety, which is hilarious because I can speak on the TV, but standing in front of a crowd talking about myself, I get it. I couldn't do it. But I think sometimes they're too afraid to step out the box, outside the box.
Hmm.
So I feel like instead of just trying one thing, we should try a few different things and see what works best for us.
Exactly, as you've done. Now, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you will feel better and more comfortable with some of the analytical and commentary work you're doing with the BBC, presumably, the more you've done it. But the nerves will never go away. I can imagine when you're commentating on an Olympics or your Commonwealth Games, there's a high level of nerves. But just like competition, the more you do it, the more you get used to it. Is that a fair? Is that
Yeah,
resonate with
definitely.
you?
Definitely. But nerves is always not always a bad thing. It can be a really positive thing. The adrenaline, nerves gets you going, I think. So don't take nerves as a bad thing. I was very, very nervous the first time I was on BBC, like that first day being interviewed, but then it got better as the days goes on. But my nerves were always there. But
Mhm.
I'm that, and that's exactly how I felt when I was stood on the diving board.
There we go. Perfect. And that's exactly what I was hoping you'd say because people have these barriers. Well, I can't do that. It feels too difficult. I'm so nervous about it. But well, you had similar emotions and sensations and nerves prior to competition, whether you're in a team discipline, individual discipline. It shows that it matters. You can harness it. But you might look very polished on the BBC, but it's important for people to recognize you still get nervous. You still feel the nerves, but then it gets a little bit easier. But the only way to make it easier is to do it. So it's just tying nicely back into your advice. Try different things. Don't let nerves be the barrier. Try it, see how it feels.
That's the one.
So let's just go into a couple of the quick fire questions that we always like to throw at people. Now, the nice thing is we're getting all sorts of weird and wonderful suggestions. Some of them are not making the final cut, but we're building a nice community now around the ATA podcast. And so lots of things come to the fore, and there's some consistent themes. So you'll have heard these before, forgive me, but they are very popular and people like the answers. So first one that we'll throw at you is best piece of advice you've ever been given. It doesn't have to be sports specific. It can be about anything. It can be about life in general, but something that sticks that you would share with us and say, yep, that was a good piece of advice.
Oh my God. That's like the hardest question because I can imagine through my whole career I've been given advice after advice after advice. Um, Something short and sweet. My coach used to just be like, go get it. Simple as that. It doesn't matter what it was. If you want it, go get it.
Yeah.
You know? So, and I remember it. I was in London and one of the coaches from Canada, there was like to make a final, there was 4 or 5 of us divers, but I had a really tough final because it was split in half. It was two Chinese, like I said,
Right.
hard to,
Yeah.
the Canadian girl who's Olympic medalist, the Malaysian girl who's Olympic medalist, and me. And I remember they kind of like did a dig, like, oh, good luck there. And my coach turned around and was like, you go get it. And I beat the Canadian, beat the Malaysian, and me and the Chinese made it through to the final.
Nice.
Want something, just go get it.
Yeah, love it. I love it. And do you know what? It sounds like because this relationship you had with the coach is obviously a powerful one, but he understands what you need. And that's something else. I know we're pivoting away from the quick fire, but people get lost in communication sometimes. You know, it can over elaborate and it just ties in with what you said earlier. I don't need lots of goals. I don't need lots of words. I need something punchy and succinct. And in that theme, him saying to you, just go and get it, fires you up. So
It
I think
did.
that's quite powerful in communication sometimes. It's not always about the volume of what you say, it's knowing who you're talking to and make it relate so it lands with them.
Yeah, I think if my coach Andy Banks, if he started saying all this like, you can do this, do that, oh, he would have lost me. He
Yeah.
knows I don't do that. So quick, I took it in, go get it. Cool.
Yeah, love it.
Well, he's been my coach since the day I walked through that door. which I've been really, really lucky because that doesn't happen very often these days. Like you move from squad to squad to squad, and he kept me the entire time, which is really nice.
Yeah, yeah,
He left.
very powerful. You probably could just give each other a look, and you knew without any words at all after that amount of time of working together.
Yeah, 100%. It was like a second dad, you know?
Yeah, yeah, no, fabulous. Again, something to be very grateful because you're absolutely right. Very rare. Lots of people are moving and churning, and sometimes those decisions are not within their control. Particularly in team sports, coaches can be fired with alarming regularity, and then it's a whole new regime, culture, systems, way of communicating. So it's lovely that you got to have that. Going to go into another question, which might seem a bit random, but nonetheless, they're all coming for the community. I'm going to share it. It sounds a bit morbid, this, but please take it in a positive manner. There's a fire in the house. Family are all safe. Let's not worry about any of that. But what's the most treasured possession? What are you going to grab above all things and carry out with you?
Nothing.
Just going to run out.
I'm just going to run.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a safe. That's a safe. I could see you looking round there, and you're looking past all of your son's toys and things in the background, aren't you? But no, that's that. But you're safe. So there's. Forget the fire. Is there anything in particular that's got some significance for you, or that brings back a particular sentimentality or memories, maybe about your career, maybe not? Is there anything that would come to mind there?
I think maybe just my box of like, oh no, I know what I'm gonna get. My dog who's cremated in a
Oh,
beautiful. Yeah, we lost him in February. He was a big wolf dog. I had him for nearly 12 years.
oh wow.
He was my first child. When I was competing, even when I was doing weights for 3 hours and gym, uh, diving. I'd go home, walk him down the woods for like an hour. Then I'd go back to training. Then I'd walk him. It was literally my life.
Wow.
So I gave him.
Yeah, I love it.
Then any
Fabulous.
little, nah,
Yeah,
my,
yeah.
my,
There you go. And any dog owner, I've got a crazy retriever, and any dog owner will resonate with that. My wife showed me something recently about someone who's got a retriever that's got to 19 years of age. Insane, insane. So yeah, that's a fabulous one. Next one, is there a particular book that's had an impact on you? People are very much into, learning from different sources. You might say, no, books are gone. Is there a podcast? Is the one that comes quickly behind that? Is there a particular podcast that you like to listen to? And if it's no to the books, no to the podcast, that's absolutely fine.
no, do you know
No,
what? I read books. There was one time, no, twice. I read Sheriko's autobiography many years ago, and that was brilliant. I was stuck to that. But there was this book, we were in Russia. There was no computers, no Wi-Fi. It was a long time ago.
yeah,
My mum gave me a book, and I was like, I'm not reading a book, mum. And it was so boring at this training camp. And everyone was taking a mick because people were like, we got to get the bus to like our training. And
yeah.
I was walking through the snow reading my book. Don't remember what it's called, but it's the only time I've read a book.
There we go. Well, that's it. So you see, not every question is going to be relevant, but I appreciate your candor. We'll put that to one side. But the final question on this: who would be a good person from your network to have on this podcast? Who, when you think about a story of transition coming out of sport into the next chapter, who do you think would be an interesting person for us to approach to share their story with the community?
Grace Reed, she's just retired actually. So
Perfect.
that might be one to get on. She's literally, I think it was this week, she's just hung up her costume. She's Scottish. I've watched her from like a young girl on the 3 meter, so she was on the lower springboards. Um, and she's had a fantastic career. I think she's done three Olympic Games now. Um, yeah, she'll be interesting to speak to because she's transitioning now.
Exactly. I was just going to say she's right in the moment then. So yeah, yeah, I like that. Well, that's a great recommendation. Now, we asked about memories right at the start of the episode, Tonia, and I sense I probably jumped you forward onto the fact that you'd been in the top level for 18 years. And when you have been at that level for so long, I'm sure there's other memories that were going to come to the fore. So before we wrap things up today, was there anything else that stands out for you as a memory that you can look back on and it brings that emotion and that sense of pride to the fore?
Yeah, I think my mum and dad was a huge part of one of these amazing memories. I went to the Olympic Games in 2008. 8, which I think I was either 18 or 19 years old, and I made a final, which I didn't go in there to final. I went in there, as little old me, bit of experience under my belt,
Yeah.
and I made the final. So I came 12th in the prelims, or the semi, shall I say. So that means you walk on first because you're the first diver. And I remember walking out parading in my Olympic tracksuit, and in the crowd was my mum and dad with their flags. My mum made a beautiful Union Jack dress, waving in the crowd. And I think for me, that was just pure magic. I
Yeah.
think that just it got me excited for the competition. Like I was there, no one knew who I was. I made the final. My mum and dad were there cheering me on. I thought, let's just enjoy it. And then I bumped up to 8th place.
Fabulous. Yeah,
That,
anybody who's competed will recognise invariably the sacrifices that the family made to help support them. So I feel the emotion of that I can picture that. I don't know you, I don't know your mum and dad, but you can feel the emotion of that moment and how special that is. And that's a wonderful memory and something to cherish. I'm sure they were very, very proud of you to have done what you did.
yeah, it was magical. It really, really was. And even though we don't have many like pictures back then to like show for it, it's in my head.
Yeah,
It's in my
exactly.
head.
Where it needs to be. And that's
Yeah.
probably a lesson on modern day living. Anybody that goes anywhere now and sees a seas of phones in front of them for everything, sometimes it's like, just enjoy it. Just be in the moment. This is the best place to put your memory. So, no, good for you. Good for you. It's been lovely. Absolutely lovely to talk to you, Tonia. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you want to reflect on your story of transition? Any other sort of piece of wisdom or anything that you think we haven't just covered off in our little chat today?
Not really, just the fact that, my life's changed massively. Now I'm not a diver. I've got a little baby boy that's 2. Um, that's a hard job in itself,
Yeah,
but magical and rewarding job ever. Um, yeah, just my life is completely different, but I'm really happy. And talking to you today, like remembering all those memories and what I've achieved, you forget.
yeah,
Like I don't remember, like obviously I'll always be like the diver, but I just go to like day-to-day life, forgetting I've done all that.
yeah.
And it's a bit like, oh, I'm
Pinch
quite
moment. Yeah.
proud, actually.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
I love it. I love it. It's one of the beautiful things about doing the work with ATA is you get to hear these stories and just be a sort of in the armchair listening, and the energy and the passion always comes to the surface. And you've talked about your mum and dad a couple of times in this and how it ripples into the family. So it is something everyone should be very proud of. However long the chapter, you've got to 18 years, amazing. But anybody that gets to be a part of elite sport for however long should be very proud of that. And even when it doesn't end necessarily on the terms that you want, there's still lots to be proud of, which is why we always kick off with that opening question. So it's been wonderful talking to you. If people want to reach out and connect with you, where's the best place to find you? Are you particularly active on any platform, on LinkedIn or anything like that? How would people contact
really.
you?
Yeah, I think Instagram's a good one because it's quite nice actually. Someone said yesterday, like, thank you for replying. I try to reply to as many people as I can.
Yes,
Um, obviously it's hard to do it all because
within reason. Yes.
they get lost. Um, so I try to reply to people on Instagram as much as I can. That's probably the best place to find me. But yeah,
Great. Well, we'll pop your details into the show notes. As I said, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Congratulations on what was a stellar career and doing it for so long. And it's great to see you thriving and so vibrant with your energy in this next chapter. I think that's inspirational for people to see. Yes, they can be fearful about what comes next, but anybody that's listening to this or indeed watching this on YouTube will see the buzz and the energy around you. So there's lots to look forward to when you hang
yeah.
up your boots, your costume, whatever your particular discipline may be. So thank you again. It's been a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this week on our ATA podcast. If you found this conversation insightful and it resonates with your journey, please subscribe, follow the show, and stay connected with us for more insight, resources, and information on how we at ATA are supporting your preparation for life beyond the game.